видео, возможно, вы найдете ответы на некоторые свои вопросы. Сегодня мы расскажем вам про сигналы, свидетельствующие о том, что ваш партнер социопат. Мы расскажем вам, кто такие социопаты, по каким признакам их можно отличить от нормальных людей и как защитить себя от этих отношений. Каким образом можно расставить границы с человеком, который вас использует. И будет полезно тем, кто считает, что в отношениях с партнером складывается как-то не так, кто чувствует себя жертвой в отношениях.
Большинство исследователей считают, что психопаты и социопаты – это одно и то же. Но психопатами рождаются, а социопатами нас делает воспитание и окружение.
The word psychopath is often misunderstood. First of all, it's no different from sociopath. Psychopath, sociopath are the same thing. A psychopath doesn't have a conscience.
I'm Sam Vaknin, and I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual says that psychopath and sociopath are merely colloquial terms to describe someone with antisocial personality disorder. White-collar psychopaths are likely to be deceitful and engage in rampant identity theft, the use of aliases, constant lying, fraud, and con artistry for gain or sometimes for pleasure.
When I feel insulted or injured, I feel that I have been negated, that I've been annihilated. I feel that I'm dissolving into molecules. I feel that my very being, the core of my being, my essence, is being threatened directly. And I feel that I have to immediately restore balance by nothing less or nothing short of eliminating the source of frustration. It's not really vengefulness or vindictiveness. It's a desperate attempt to kill. Even the slightest hint of criticism or disagreement threatens the precarious balance that I've created over many years. The balance that constitutes my personality. You are out to destroy and kill me, so I'm out to destroy and kill you.
Hi there, we're making this video about bad love relationships that usually have very unusual starts and even more unusual endings, and what the possible causes could be in these relationships. Often they're referred to as toxic relationships, and to me this seems more of a politically correct title put out there for something that's actually has more serious roots than just being simple toxic. In your quest for any meaningful answers as a result of a bad love relationship, I would not recommend trying to label or diagnose anyone, as that's the job only for trained clinicians. But if you do encounter someone that you consider truly toxic, it is worthwhile in your quest for healing and understanding that you join in what I'll call the groundswell of people that, with the advent of the internet, are learning what are possibly the true underlying causes of some of these relationships. In my view, researching to understand what has taken place is not intended so much to fix a bad relationship, but more define and learn how to escape the cycle of abuse and avoid them altogether in your future, along with, of course, starting the healing process. So if your toxic relationship has certain key indicators, or red flags as we can call them, the possibilities are that it's something more serious and maybe a truly narcissistic or even psychopathic relationship. So understanding the difference and knowing what these red flags and traits are of these individuals is really a very valuable step. I guess Hollywood have us think of all psychopaths as being bug-eyed serial killers or tyrannical political dictators, and really nothing is further from the truth. Although these first types do exist, they represent only really a very tiny portion of the individuals that could meet criteria as really being a true psychopath.
We so love our Hollywood psychopaths.
Turn on television at night and people watch Dexter about a serial killer, I guess, with a conscience. Does that make any sense?
But in reality, psychopaths are everywhere, from down and out to high and mighty.
The unfortunate truth is more likely you're going to meet a psychopath at the supermarket or next to you on the bus going to work, or be in a relationship with one. So they're unlikely to knock on your door with an axe or a gun. So psychopathy and neuroscience is really a very complex topic, of which I know very little about, and many aspects of this are still under-researched, so extreme caution should be taken when dealing with these individuals or really trying to analyse the whole thing. However, there is now ample written scholarly information available that's easily understood by even the layman who is trying to understand if he or she may have had an encounter with a real psychopath. Dr. George Simon refers to them as character disturbed or aggressive personalities. I like to use his description, but also like to use the word psychopath. It's really more descriptive.
With the sadistic personality, the third subtype, demeaning people, hurting people, making them ache is an end goal. This is another way that they feel victorious, superior, and dominant. And they love that feeling. Remember, it's all about, it gives them an inordinate thrill to have a position of dominance over somebody else. They want to see somebody else in that one down, groveling position. It just warms the cockles of their heart.
According to academics and professionals worldwide, between 1 and 4% of the population could meet criteria as having psychopathic personalities, due mainly to the primary traits of being devoid of any conscience and having no empathy for other people. Okay, so how do you spot someone that might fit the general profile of a malignant narcissist or psychopath in what is just a love relationship? Well, the truth is it's really very hard. These individuals are consummate actors and shapeshifters that hide behind a false persona and that they've created especially to lure you close enough to snare you. How do they do this? Well, first, when you meet these kind of people, they'll study you and your every word and action, and so that quite quickly they start mirroring your life's dreams, aspirations and desires back at you as being that of their own. While this is taking place, they will also excessively flatter you and be very tentative to all your needs and wants, like almost no one ever has before. This is all this behaviour is really intended to get you to let your guard down so that you start to trust them, as all they want you to feel is that you are their soulmate and been sent to you by the universe. And they're pretty cunning and skillful actors at doing that. In a normal relationship, this is called the honeymoon phase. But how I describe it is in a psychopathic relationship, this is referred to as the idealization phase. So once they have you hooked, they'll start to close the net on you, and the idealization phase will then pass, and without you really understanding it, will subtly move into the devaluation phase, and this is where they're going to put you off balance by altering your sense of reality, and as their real goal is to strip you of your sovereignty, and basically they want to own you, and they treat you more as a possession and not as a real person. I guess around there they're going to start gaslighting you to continue to devalue you, so much that eventually you're left holding two sets of beliefs. This is known as cognitive dissonance, and they can hold you in this pattern for quite some time until you really start to question what's going on and look for answers. You know something's not right, but you can't really put your finger on it, and it's very difficult, so you start questioning your own logic. Anyway, but if you get to this point in the relationship, you know you're in fairly deep, and you know it's going to be tricky to get yourself out of this. So anyway, once you've got to this, you know you will have started to notice some of the red flags by now, and you're going to see the red flags through their behaviour, their personality traits, things they say, how they say them, etc. And I guess the main thing here is, you know, you need to, at this point, stop ignoring your gut instinct and start listening to that gut instinct, because your intuition's really the only thing that you're going to be able to use to help you to escape what's going on here. The further up you go in the spectrum of psychopathy and your love interest is, the more worrying traits you'll start to see in them. And the more skillful that they are, the more conning and the more manipulating they'll be. And but they're pretty good at hiding all these traits too. Right up on the high scale of one of their traits is lying. In some instances, the lie may be very cleverly concealed by this person, not actually by telling you a lie to your face, but instead by not exposing the truth in the first instance. And this is a pretty skillful technique that can be used. So be vigilant, and remember these individuals specialise in conning and manipulating, and they've been doing it all their lives, and they are very skillful, and they're also very skillful at concealing their activities and agendas. So very, very difficult to spot. Another thing that they use early in their relationship is their superficial charm offensive, and that's pretty much how they fooled you in the first instance, to become deeply entrapped in the relationship. And once again, if you get past this, there's a good chance you've lost your window of opportunity to easily escape, and you're going to be in for a bumpy ride from here on in. It's also really important to clarify that just being a jerk or a nasty or dishonest person doesn't classify someone as being a narcissist or a psychopath. Not at all. To meet the strict criteria to be considered a psychopath, you would have to have a large number of the 30 plus established personality traits used in defining what is a true clinical psychopath. And even then, the chances you'll never get this person diagnosed, as they can con and manipulate doctors, health professionals, judges, police, the authorities, with relative ease to avoid being identified. Nearly all the tactics they use to evade detection will involve simply distorting the truth, or telling blatant lies, or using projecting to turn the spotlight off of themselves and their own bad behaviour and back onto that of their targets. This is really the standard ploys of the psychopath and the narcissist. So again, beware. If you do manage to escape a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, don't think it's going to end there. A good portion of these aggressive and disturbed personalities will follow you out the door. They'll stalk, harass you and your family for quite some time, pretty much in the same way that a cat plays with a mouse once he's caught it. It's all just for fun.
Psychopaths don't act or look crazy. They're not mentally ill. In fact, they're masters at appearing normal. Their main defect, what psychologists call severe emotional detachment, is harder to diagnose than schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. They don't feel emotion, but act as if they do. They know right from wrong, but lack remorse and empathy. Psychopaths are pathological liars who love to con and manipulate others.
You're kind of surprised because you have the feeling that they think and feel the way we do. And they're going to respond to a situation much the way we do, and they're going to be empathetic and loving and warm and honest, full of integrity. And this often doesn't happen.
In fact, they behave like predators. They are at the top of the food chain, and the rest of us are just lunch. In a psychopath's worldview, they are the cat, and we are all mice.
The cat is a cat, and the cat doesn't know what the mouse is going through, nor does it care. If the mouse has got 3 little nieces at home somewhere, so what? It's a mouse, and I can eat it and I do what I want with it. And the mouse is thinking, I'm a mouse, and what's that thing trying to do to me? And the mouse tries to impart its own values onto the cat. And the cat, of course, has a different set of values based upon its evolution, right? So we have predators and prey.
For the psychopath, this part of the discard phase is simply business mixed with pleasure, and it's not necessarily a personal vendetta. It's part of their standard format of operation. Another good sign you're dealing with a real psychopath at the end of a relationship will be the use of smear campaigns and stalking. So after they lose actual control over you, if you do abandon them, you will sometimes have them up the ante, and they'll concentrate their efforts towards your total destruction. And they really are truly capable of anything. So be ready for all manner of bizarre events to keep taking place for the foreseeable future, or at least until they line up their next target. Most psychopaths, somewhere either during or after the relationship, they're going to use enablers, or often referred to as minions or flying monkeys, to spy on you, harass you, basically get involved in the finishing off job of you. Often these half-wits are even unaware that they're playing a role on behalf of the psychopath, and they usually have something to gain, possibly, such as maybe an inheritance. Often they'll just turn a blind eye to what they know is pretty bad behaviour, but still support the psychopath. It's just the nature of enablers. Enablers can take the form of close family members, associates, but you need to remember that the true narcissist and psychopath has no real true friends in the true sense of the word, because the narcissist and psychopath really only consider people as useful for some purpose and basically dispensable or discardable.
Человек, который потакает преступнику и молчит, зная его действиях, является моральной проституткой.
So in the final stage, the psychopath's goal really is just simply to exploit the final few drops of blood from their ex-love interest and silence and bury their prey before moving on to the next. Some of the more sophisticated narcissists and psychopaths are really very driven to destroy you, and they will stop at nothing. But this can actually sometimes be their downfall, as despite the psychopath being almost a mechanical in nature, even they can make mistakes. So be very observant. My next comment really is it's not really recommended that you go head to head on your own with someone exhibiting all the traits of psychopathy, as they're not only dangerous, but they're like liquid mercury, and they're pretty much impossible to get a hold of. And if you do become completely entrapped by one, and the only way to extricate yourself, the first thing is you've got to abandon them. Next, you have to go no contact, and I mean indefinitely no contact. So, and then the only other way, if you've got the matters to deal with between you, you're going to need to engage the police, the courts, lawyers. So you need to start documenting everything, because really at the end of the day, you can't deal with these people without the professional help. That's for certain. Even then, you'll still need to be ready for the show to continue, as the narcissist and the psychopath, they are driven to win, and so they pretty much will go to the bitter end in a lot of instances. And when it comes to trying to resolve normal, simple relationship issues, if you get it into a formal setting, they're going to start answering questions with questions and things like this, and they'll just keep diverting things away from themselves again, back onto their targets. And they like to elongate and torment, and this causes pretty much as much trauma as they possibly can. So they're pretty good at that. You also got to remember that lying to a narcissist or a psychopath, it's pretty much comes as easy as drawing breath. So prepare yourself. Never talk to them alone or react to their attempts to engage or provoke you. It's sort of pretty much understandable that. So even your well-meaning positive efforts to diffuse and move on in life, all of those things are going to be used against you. So as I say, just absolutely no contact. Everything that comes from your mouth, it's going to be twisted 180 degrees, and it's going to be used against you. Just like they love to use the cheating strategy, this all just comes natural to the psychopath. So if you've experienced a lot or all of the things that I've just outlined, you can be relatively certain that you're dealing with someone that could at least meet a level of criteria as a psychopath. And I'm going to repeat again, it's really no contact, document everything, do your research, and don't continue living in their world, but arm yourself with the tools you'll need in the future to avoid not becoming a target ever again, because that's pretty important too.
Они не признают права других людей, используют обман и манипуляции для контроля и запугивания.
But learning to read and accept the red flags for what they really are, and to act early, to quickly distance yourself, will save you a huge amount of heartache, trouble and discomfort, as these relationships are usually very traumatic and life-changing, and ones that you'll never forget. If you meet a person with some or all of the traits that I will refer to as red flags, you can almost be certain that you've encountered a narcissistic or psychopathic individual, whether they're male, female, black, white, young, old, any race, faith or culture. Your only defense is to immediately get away from them and cut off their opportunity to damage your life irreversibly. These relationships nearly always start with sycophantic charm offensives, consisting of flattery and lies. To help understand the difference between a compliment and flattery, a compliment is a healthy way to express normal affection or attraction to someone without any motive. Whereas flattery is the use of excessive admiration or adulation intended to stroke another person's ego in the hope that they will let their guard down and allow themselves to be taken advantage of. So anyone that's flattering you excessively, consider this as a huge red flag. So there are quite a few red flags here which I've compiled a list of, and these psychopathic individuals, they may contain just some or all of them. Every situation, every person is different. One of the key traits with these people is a complete lack of empathy for others. A psychopath simply cannot feel the normal range of human emotions that everyone else feels. They do understand your feelings, but they can't feel these same emotions for themselves. The second red flag is if you come across someone that's very manipulative. Psychopaths use deception to cheat others into thinking and believing in certain ways. They only focus on personal profit or gain with no real regards to how others feel, and manipulation is one of those key tools. They're very irresponsible and impulsive people. Psychopaths are never like to admit their mistakes or wrongdoing. If they're challenged, they will distort the situation 180 degrees in an instant and turn the problem as being the fault of the person that's accused them. They are shapeshifters. Next trait, really, the key trait, is pathological lying. So if you're dealing with someone that's obviously telling some kind of lies in any fashion, be very wary of them. The psychopathic personality is pretty much based on lying. They'll tell a lie on a lie, and basically their whole lives are a web of lies. And if they're ever found out, basically they will tell a bigger lie to try and cover the previous lies. They simply won't ever acknowledge that you've caught them out. It's just not their way. Another great trait or red flag is anyone that's exceedingly charming. Everyone likes to have a little bit of charm, but people that are overly charming, they use this charm in a very superficial way, and it's primarily intended just to hook you into the relationship, because it's really just a persona that they're putting on to fool and manipulate. Once they've got you close, they'll take this persona off, and that'll be a completely different situation where they may intermittently charm you again, but by and large you're on a downward slope once you've got past that. Next red flag or core trait, I guess, is a complete lack of remorse. The psychopath doesn't feel any guilt, remorse for any of the negative actions or bad actions that they've inflicted on another person. It just doesn't factor into it. With these people, when they do something that hurts you badly, whether it's emotional, financial, psychological, for them it's just a business transaction. It's mechanical. So they really have no remorse. Another red flag would be people that are into bullying, and it can be done in a very subtle way. They often can do it in the workplace, belittle people, but bullying is another very strong red flag. Control. Really, one of the major things with a psychopath, narcissistic person, is they're looking to control and dominate you. They really don't consider anyone else has any rights, and they're basically interested in taking control of your life and devaluing you. They take great pleasure in having power over other people, and they particularly like to exploit vulnerable people. Also, the psychopath and narcissist are very egocentric. They have a highly inflated sense of self-worth, and they see pretty much everyone else as being inferior. So if you're dealing with someone or met someone that's talks down about other people on a regular basis, there's another red flag there that you're dealing with a psychopath. Another important one is people that have had large numbers of broken relationships, whether they're romantic, family, business. These people also, that's another good red flag. Another thing that is a red flag is if people have inappropriate emotional responses to circumstances, situations. The real psychopath, because they actually don't have their own real emotions, they feign emotion, but they don't always time it right to display. So if you can catch people out laughing at something that's really not funny or something like that, you know, these people here are, that's also another good red flag. The other thing with a psychopath is they objectify people. Basically, people are really just objects to a psychopath. They treat you pretty much like an object, like a possession. And it's just one of their personality traits which they can't change. And gaslighting is another key trait. Anyone that tries to alter your sense of reality, if you know something that's happened you're absolutely certain about, and someone tries to tell you that what you're okay, so someone's trying to alter my reality, as you can see. Is it dark, is it light? And here's another good indication that you know, you're dealing with someone with a psychopathic personality. Often they're moral deviants. Psychopath doesn't acknowledge the social norms and mores of society. They're well known as basically they make their own rules, and of course their targets or victims, the empathic people, they're expected to follow the laws of society. And the psychopath basically understands that because they're free from the social constraints, they can exploit this and their targets. Another good indication or red flag is the parasitic lifestyles. Pretty much all psychopaths, especially the ones who have long-term parasitic lifestyles, that's another strong indicator. So if you've met a person with all or some of these traits, it's most likely you've met someone that's, I guess, an energy vampire or psychopath. And the Bible refers to these vipers as hypocrites and the children of hell. So be careful, they're out there. And
У тебя не может быть здоровых отношений с тем, кто носит маску.
To help you move quickly through the considerable amount of information available now, we're going to put some links at the bottom of this page, and also make reference to some really good books which are essential reading, because once you start looking at this, you're going to find literally hundreds of hours of videos. There's almost too much, but I think you can really cut to the chase with just really, I guess, reading some key books, some key videos. There are certain very reputable scholars and doctors that I will recommend. Even as a man, I will recommend Sandra L. Brown, who's got some great information, but she speaks more so from a woman's point of view, dealing with a male psychopath. When it comes to other doctors, I would recommend reading books by George Simon, of course Robert Hare, Harvey Cleckley, if you can want to go that far, to some slightly historical information on psychopathy. There is quite a bunch of really useful tools and good information out there now. So anyway, join the groundswell of resistance against these individuals. As time goes by, it's going to get harder and harder for them to prey on people, especially if there's more awareness of the predatory nature of these individuals. And all I can say is take care, and wish you luck with your battle against what is really pure evil.
С вами не прощаюсь. Подписывайтесь на мой канал, ставьте лайк или дизлайк этому видео. И до новых встреч!